Hello and welcome to the first ever live stream of RadEO, a podcast by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, run out of the Entrepreneurs Organization in South Africa. I'm one of your hosts, Ross Drakes, and I'm here with Rich Holland and Andrew Brown, who seems to have disappeared.
No, Andrew's here.
So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Good to have you. I see we got Nick Harry-Lambus in the audience. Hey, Nick. Nice to see you.
Cool. So I suppose the whole point of this recording is to share with people very short and punchy advice from entrepreneurs who are doing amazing things with their businesses in this time of strife. And I think, Andrew, you've done
Ross, is Sebastian having a bad time?
He's banging on the door, yes.
Okay, go for it.
So Andrew, I mean, you've got two businesses. You've got the Daily Buzz and you've got Craft Coffee, and you've made some pretty difficult decisions in the last while. Can you tell the listeners what you've done?
Well, in fact, before that,
Yes.
do you want to maybe give us an introduction to your business as if we asked you 2 months ago?
Oh yes, I forgot the powerful question is you got to give us your elevator pitch, Andrew.
Okay, my elevator pitch is that I tell everyone that we're the best part of their working day. And what we do, and this is the Daily Buzz, is we operate coffee bars inside big office buildings. I've got a whole lot of friendly baristas that welcome customers in and make a really awesome cup of coffee so that when people leave our space, they leave in a much better mood than they arrived. And then the other part of the business is Craft Coffee. It's a coffee roastery based in Newtown. We roast and package and sell coffee. We wholesale coffee, and it's, in my opinion, the most distinctive coffee in South Africa.
Cool. So that was your pre-COVID-19 elevator pitch. Can you share with the audience some of the hard decisions that you've had to make over the last while to survive this pandemic?
Oh, wow. Sure. I think when the president announced that we're going into that state of disaster, that next week I just saw my sales drop like from 80, 70, 60%. So by the Wednesday, I decided we're going to go down to 4 out of 5 days of work week, so to cut the salary cost to 80%. And the next day, the Thursday, I actually woke up and I knew I had to shut or suspend my business. So by Friday, end of Friday, we'd actually suspended the business. And this was before the state of lockdown had been announced, which was on the Sunday. And the reason I did it so quickly is my reserves were pretty low. I think just given the state of the economy, I just seen our sales being stagnant, and also I hadn't cut costs as quickly as I should have. And it's something that I kind of regret and feel quite guilty about and think, am I a good business person for not doing that? But it's something I've come to terms with over these weeks in lockdown and having lots of time for reflection. So what happened is end of March, I paid all of my guys. They got a full salary. And now sitting in April, no one is getting paid. We're not trading at all. The only trading we are actually doing is we're selling coffee online. And at the moment, that's a bit of a hack because I'm pretty clueless when it comes to digital marketing. And even that is I've got some of my team still working. They're not getting paid, and the guys are still pitching up for calls and for check-ins, which I'm really, really grateful for. Today, I actually need to issue something where we've taken the decision that I'm going to cut salaries, all management salaries, down to 45% of pre-crisis levels, and for the rest of my staff, it's going to go to 55% with a minimum of 3,500, which is the minimum amount that gets paid out by UIF. So that's been an incredibly tough decision. Supplier-wise, I've paid 50% of what was due to my suppliers at the end of March, and I've really kept back on cash so I can conserve as much as possible. I mean, something else I've also been doing I was on a call earlier with my bankers. It's one of the big blue banks, and my approach there has really been to my new motto is "Get naked fast." Is to really be as transparent as possible, and really just say, like, my business is. Can we swear on here? My business is
Yes, you can.
fucked. And like, I really need their support. If they withdraw my overdraft or my financing facilities, I told them today, I said, if you withdraw them, I'm going to liquidate my business. So, and the nice thing about it was they very understanding, and they've given me assurance that they're not going to withdraw my facilities. And they're there to support me. So I'm really, really grateful for that. And like, I've been spending more time on the phone to my bank, trying to get their support, and also trying to see if I can access things like marketing, and trying to do things like we've got a relief coffee campaign, is to see whether they prepared to come in as a co-sponsor. And the idea there is to offer coffee at really good price and really good credit terms to the hospitality industry, so that we can do a little bit to help people get back on their feet, help their cash flow. So yeah, I've been really thinking about what to do.
And
So-
can I ask you, what has the response been? I'd like, out of interest, like, so you're one of the first companies to be so decisive. What has happened, I guess, as the response of your team and then the response of your peers? And, what did people say? You made a decision that I admire a lot, but I can imagine some people would have felt was unpopular.
Oh, sure. You know what, Rich? There hasn't been anyone that's come back to me and said, this is a bad decision. Why are you doing this? I mean, my staff, like, I was absolutely amazed at the humility and the understanding that came through when I did announce it. In fact, the morning I announced it, which is the Friday before the president announced lockdown, I sat down with my management team around the table, and I actually just broke down. I broke down into tears. I really didn't know what to say. And what happened then is everyone just started saying, well, it's not your fault. It's a much bigger situation that you're part of. It's not like you've been running the business badly, although that's what I felt I had been doing. And like, I got a lot of support from them, and a lot of just the kind of understanding and humility, which I wasn't expecting. And I'm sort of amongst friends and colleagues, and like even the EO network, I just had a whole lot of people messaging me, calling me, and I'm so grateful for that.
How did you know it was coming? I mean, like, I think one of the things that struck me the most is most people were still optimistic and thinking it wasn't going to happen, or pretending it wasn't happening, or just outright denying it. And you just seemed to see it coming, and you jumped in front of it. I don't think I saw anybody else react as fast or as definitively as you did.
Yeah, I think, at the time, I remember saying to people, it's kind of like we can all see this tsunami coming. And some people are like shooting arrows at the tsunami, expecting it to keep it at bay. And I mean, my thing is, I could just see my financial position. Every day I stayed open, the hole that I was digging for myself was getting deeper and deeper. And like, my thinking was that the deeper I dig my hole, the longer it's going to take me to crawl out of here. And eventually I'm going to dig it so deep that I just can't get back out again. And then that kind of precipitated my decision. I don't know, maybe it was the universe speaking to me, just saying, when I woke up I think it was the Thursday morning, just saying that this is the future. You've got to act fast, otherwise, and decisively. Otherwise, it is going to be the end. I mean, even now, like, I sometimes think the sky is going to fall on my head. And next morning I wake up and, well, the sky hasn't fallen on my head. I'm still alive. And there's still a whole lot of people, like over 100 people, that I need to get this business back up, so I can at least employ some of the people, and do my small part for the economy.
Can you tell me? So you've obviously had some time while running around and fixing all these moving parts to reflect on, because you mentioned at the beginning that maybe there were certain decisions that you'd made that meant that you were in the situation you were in. In your reflection, in the rebuild of your business going forward, have you given some thought to what you would maybe do differently? And is there anything you're excited about building going forward?
Sure. Is there anything I would do differently? Sure. If I'd gone back kind of pre-crisis, I would have started to cut costs.
Yeah, sorry,
A
I'm
lot.
not saying what you would have done differently because of the crisis. I mean, if you're rebuilding your business, what would you like to do that you hadn't done 2 years ago?
Sure. So streamline the business, and make well, like I have done, make pay of people a lot more aligned with the performance of the business. Um, Uh, and I suppose the other thing is give give my employees like I feel sometimes that I really just step in the way and I trip myself up and I trip everyone else up because I've been in the business for the last 13 years and I've got a very set way of thinking. In fact, I'd just come back 2 weeks before from Pakistan and I was all ready to go off there and start a business. The Saturday before the president announced the disaster, I'd announced that I was appointing 2 co-CEOs in my business to actually run the business, so I could step out and start looking at Pakistan. And then like a week later, I was suspending my business. So um, the other question, Rich, in terms of like what am I excited about? Like I think this time that we've got is an absolute gift. And like I'm so excited by like this EO network and being tapped into the network and jumping on all webinars to understand what people are doing around the world. Like there've been some awesome ones coming out of APAC, the Asia Pacific region, where the lockdown has been lifted, and really just hearing what those businesses are doing, how they're pivoting, how they're responding, and also what the business environment is like that lockdown has been lifted. I think your tough times are going to be with us for quite some time. Customers are not exactly flocking back into the retail stores, into the restaurants and coffee bars.
And I mean, so you were, your business was the Daily Buzz, and I know quite a few people that work in buildings that you served, and that cup of coffee was every day or twice a day experience for them. Have you had any people reaching out to you and contacting you? Like, what has it been like for your customers that you used to serve?
Sure. So I think some of my customers, and actually my staff don't know this, but the sort of within in Standard Bank, and I'm going to mention them. There've been some guys that have been like they've through their CSI initiatives, they're raising funds to at least contribute to the salaries of the guys that are not getting paid this month. So the baristas that serve them every day, and this is an initiative that they've taken like off their own bat. I haven't asked for it. I mean, there's even one of the guys is so like involved. He's getting messaging the marketing director on LinkedIn, and he's coming up with all sorts of ideas for crowdfunding for me, and how people can stump up and they can buy an equity stake. And I've got to have that conversation with him this weekend. And like it's amazing that all the people that I've spoken to are just so supportive with what is actually going on with the business, and they really do want the Daily Buzz to come back. I mean, it's like as I said, I like to think of it. It's the most important part of the best part of their working day is coming to us and grabbing a cup of coffee and just experiencing a really good vibe, buzz. Daily Buzz. So,
so I love that. I love that you've been sort of super honest. That I think the word you said earlier is to get naked fast, and you are super honest with people. And it seems like the generosity is starting to come back to you. How are you in your position now? How are you able to, like you mentioned earlier, that you're trying to provide coffee beans to people, even though your business is in theory not generating any revenue? Like how are you even thinking about being generous when nothing is happening in your company?
So I think the generosity, there's a business kind of impetus behind the whole thing. The generosity is really see if I can, I suppose, go to our suppliers, the green bean suppliers, get some decent coffee at a really good price out of them, and then also see whether I can work with the bank. And I was just on a call an hour ago, also trying to see whether I could get some facilities out of them. Sort of besides saying to them they need to keep my existing overdraft facility, I'm actually asking for more. Um, and the, the the guys are saying, well, it only looks like in level 2 that restaurants and hospitality is going to open up, and that's only likely to be much later in the year. So, my objective is I want to be at the front of the queue, and I want to be there with my pants down, saying, kind of, this is me, this is where my business is at. I really want to get it back up and running, and the hope is that we sign up a whole lot of customers for this relief coffee, so that we can help them a little bit. But in the long run, I would hope that we're going to retain those customers and they'll become lifelong customers for my coffee roastery. So there is definitely a business incentive for me. However, like, if we can do our little bit now, the more we can get hospitality back on their feet, it just kind of, the pie is going to be bigger for us in terms of the market that's available. And I mean, even like the whole thing is it's such a big employer, and it's been one of the industries that's been, it's almost like the canary in the cage in the coal mine. The hospitality industry is the canary, and the canary's on the floor of the cage, about to take its last breath, I think, in many cases for these hospitality businesses.
Well, so I mean, one of the questions me and Rich were kicking around on the last episode was, what are the habits that you've realized that you should leave behind, from your business, and what are the new habits that have kind of formed over the last couple of weeks that you wish to carry with you, into the next iteration of your business?
Yeah. So habits, like one habit that I've started is just phoning in the morning when I wake up. Generally, like, I'm a little bit depressed or like worried about where things are going, because I think my mind switches on even before I open my eyes. And one thing I found that's really helped me is picking up the phone or dialing someone and just saying, hey, how are you? What's going on? Like, where are you at? Phoning customers, phoning my staff, wishing them happy birthday. It really gets me into a great space. And I think psychologically, when you engage the verbal side of things, Rich, maybe you know something about this, but it kind of switches off the subconscious. So those tapes that are playing in the background when I'm talking, like I'm talking now, it switches off those negative tapes that are really a part of me. So that's one really good thing that I've been doing. The other thing that I've also learned is, like, I must just walk into my fears. And a good example of that is, today I had my first call. I set the whole thing up with the CEOs of all the big coffee companies in South Africa. I got the CEO of Seattle, of Vida, of Motherland, of bootleggers on a call. And it was very much like an EO style call, looking to just share our stories and where we're currently at. And like, I was proud to say, we started on time, we ended on time with the minutes, and everyone had an opportunity to talk. And everyone came back. Their takeout from the call was they really enjoyed it and they want to have another one. So, like, I'm actually so proud, and actually so I suppose excited that I managed to pull that off and get everyone in the same room.
I must say, I think in general, what I've found about this time is it's the best thing that's happened here is this situation is like an alien invasion. And so a lot of previous differences don't seem to be that important now. So it's like, for the first time at least in my history, the world has been attacked by aliens. And the only thing that matters is that we're humans trying to work together towards a common good. I still think there's going to be a little bit of a race as well. And that will happen maybe once we beat the aliens, then we're going to come out running, and there's going to be a race in that, some elbowing. But it is unbelievable to me how people who were competitors before are now compatriots.
I love that. I think there's also, like, one thing we're seeing is people who, like they just wouldn't ask the question. So if you asked them to do a thing or to think about something, they were just not interested. All of a sudden, the number of conversations that you can have, if you're bold enough to have them, people are open to it. They're willing to change things that they've always done this way. They've always thought of it like that. It just, I think the opportunity to have those conversations now is one that's not going to repeat itself probably in our business lifetime.
Andrew, please share the details with the Relief Coffee Initiative. Could you share some details about where people can find out more about
that? Yes, I'll do. I will do that. So we're posting some information on Facebook and also Instagram and Twitter, so it kind of we dribble feeding that campaign at the moment, and the idea is to get people to sign up. And I mean, as I said, on the social media side of digital marketing, it's very much a case of try stuff and see what works, and try and get our heads around where we currently
are. Okay, great. I think, I guess communication is one of the most important things to be doing right now. And in fact, I just wanted to ask you, have you thought about anything? So we're chatting to a company down here. There's a vegan eatery they make. It's called Kind Kitchen. And the guy, he'd been sitting, because funny enough, what you said about the tape playing in your head, I found busyness shuts it out. So conversation is one way, but as long as I'm busy and have something to do, then that's, amazing. But as soon as I put my head on the pillow, then I start, the tape starts playing. And I've been chatting to him, and he's a chef, and now he's sending out, so people are ordering from him. They can download the recipe of the week and then go into his live stream where he teaches people how to make things. Is there anything you guys could do around, like with your customers? I mean, could you have coffee hours? Could you have things where your baristas teach people how to make things? Is there anything you can do in that regard?
Yeah, I think there's definitely scope for that. Is creating some sort of coffee theater and sharing that with our customers. And I mean, I've just been thinking about, like, how do we link that maybe with a live performance of a band or a performer of sorts, to try and differentiate ourselves in some way, because I think there's a lot of online stuff about how do you make a plunger coffee, or how do you make a pour over or something like that. And we need to figure out how we can differentiate ourselves by introducing something unique, something different, also something that's South African, and also tells a story. I mean, that's one of the things that I'm hearing come up over and over again, is authenticity, have a narrative, and tell a story. I mean, we're in Africa, and Africa is about stories. So it's trying to figure out how we weave all of that into the way that we market our coffee and the business.
I mean, the oldest advice in sort of marketing is that sex sells, and you've already expressed a lot of interest in being naked. So potentially there's an angle here for a naked barista or something like
that. The naked barista, yes. That's a great idea, Ross.
I mean,
that
do it.
Certainly be working.
I think it's an amazing idea. Could you imagine just Andrew sitting with his plunger?
Yes. Boiling water and exposed pots. Nothing could go wrong.
Lovejoy mentioned in the comments, virtual home barista courses to improve people's coffee making skills at home. And there are channels like that, but specifically, I mean, around your community. The kind of people that you already interact with. If the best part of their day was meeting for a cup of coffee. So one of the things, for example, that businesses have been having is what's called water cooler hours. And, you meet for your team, you have a water cooler session. Shouldn't it be a daily buzz session? Couldn't you maybe own that water coolers? I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but I feel like there's a great opportunity to still be people's favorite part of the day. If that was the business you were in, then you actually transcend the commodity.
Yeah, actually, that's a great idea, Rich. I was on a call yesterday with Robert Glazer. He did a webinar, and there's a software called Donut, And Donut is specifically, they run a remote company. They've got 300 people around the States and the world. And they've got this software called Donut. And basically what it does is it tees up people to come together and to have that coffee chat, or that donut chat, as they call it. And that's actually a brilliant idea for the daily buzz, because everyone's going to be missing their daily buzz. I think it's something to explore. Thank you.
And yeah, maybe a cool thing that people could join some platform and come in and then just have their daily balance, and just to own that kind of branding of it. And there was a question that was asked down in the questions area. And the question said, referring to what Richard asked, what will happen after teaching people how to make their own meals, coffees, etc.? Do you think businesses will survive after that? Won't people opt out for doing it themselves after the pandemic? I guess the question is, I mean, how lazy do we think people are ultimately? Because I think the information is there. I know how to I watch the videos to make my home cup of coffee, but I still like going, because I guess what we realize is we're more than just a community. Eating out isn't just about calories. I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
I think this stuff is always easier to do. It's easy to do, but it's not as easy to do well. And I think that's what businesses do. The Daily Buzz specializes in creating an experience and a great cup of coffee. It's not just about a good cup of coffee. Like, I can make a good cup of coffee at home, but I don't think the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew?
I mean, for me, I think it's about, we're in the business of bringing people together and creating a community point. And that's just such a sad thing about this COVID-19 virus, is we have to have social distancing as a result. So I think our environment's certainly going to change, but human beings love to get together, whether that's virtually or it's at a coffee store. And that's particularly what we see in the corporate environments where we operate. Is it's people come there for the social aspect, and it's not necessarily to drink the coffee. I think a lot of people do drink the coffee, but the social aspect of coming there, meeting friends, even just standing in the queue, catching up on social media is such an important one, and it's a break from the routine of the office. So getting together, coffee is community, and community I don't think is going to go away. I think the format of coming together in community is going to change with social distancing. And we're going to have to adapt our business to that new norm, whatever that is.
So what I would say, though, to a degree, is actually, if anything, community has leveled up. To go back to our earlier point, we're actually leveling up as being a community. We're just doing it in a different form. I mean, just what you mentioned about you getting to jump onto calls and people are sharing information. I mean, people have given us a time machine. Hey, we're a month ahead of you. This is what it's going to look like. That's a community reaching out to people across from the planet who they've never met and never will meet, and sharing advice about it. Like, how amazing is that? There are communities expanded outside just, where we met.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, and if you look at the EO community, for instance, how that's just opened up. And I mean, now I can attend an event absolutely anywhere in the world because I've got the technology to do that, and because the organization's moved largely online, and everything's opened up. So those communities are opening up, and I think certainly entrepreneurs are going to be at the front of these communities and looking at what the opportunities are. I do think there is going to be a lot more sourcing local. So people looking at where goods are coming from, the traceability, and also sourcing local to support local. So we're supporting local jobs. I think that's going to be a big trend in the future.
I fully agree. I think people being pulled apart or forced apart is going to kind of create this almost like backlash against it. I think people are going to pull together in some way or another in a much harder, in a much more steadfast way than ever before. I think, the idea that everything's going to be the same, it isn't. But I also think in the end of the day, I think Nick said it earlier, that we like our habits, we like the things that we like, and being denied them isn't going to make us not like them anymore. I think if anything, it's going to make people want that and relish that experience even more. I think the idea of going to a coffee shop and buying a cup of coffee feels like such a treat to me, whereas it was something that I just did every day. Like I didn't really think about it. I just autopiloted into the shop, bought the coffee, and autopiloted back out again. Now, I think the first time I step past that threshold into that shop is going to be like a thrill again.
Yeah, I guess it's the novelty of that we're looking forward to going back. I think on the flip side, some people might have realized that, like with regard, like Jazz and I were reflecting on, maybe we won't eat out so much in the future. Maybe we're really enjoying sitting around the table. But Andrew's point is that he was never in the business of the commodity. He actually was in the business of the community and the location for people, giving people a break in their day. So, funnily enough, if caffeine was outlawed tomorrow, he could still, the need, the problem he solves still exists, right?
Totally.
I mean, one of my far out ideas is actually to start something like a temperance bar. In other words, a bar with no alcohol in it. Because I think the consumption of alcohol is going to drop. I mean, I think that will be one of the outcomes of this new normal is consumption of things like alcohol will drop.
If my household is anything to go by, the consumption of alcohol is increasing on an exponentially rapid scale the longer lockdown continues.
Really? See, I mean, I'm a teetotaler, so I'm okay. I mean, every time anybody says to me on like social media, if I say anything like, "Oh, there's another, suburban dude who's just upset that he can't get his alcohol and cigarettes," I'm like, "Well, don't smoke, don't drink, my friend." "Oh, you're roast chicken then?" Well, so yeah, it's been tricky. Anyway, guys, I think we've got to wrap this up now. We've gone 6 minutes over our 30 minutes, but really, really amazing chatting. Ross, what do you think? Are we at about time?
Yeah, I think, Andrew, just to close it out, like what is, like, if you could land a message on people, like what is the number one thing that you think people should hold in their head kind of to weather the next 6 to 18 months?
I received my payslip today. It says a 0 on it. I'm going to put it up on my wall so that in 18 months I look back and I'm going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. I'll still be alive. So, I mean, that's my message. Everything is going to be okay. We're just going to be living in a different world in the future. So that's my message. Everyone will be okay.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thanks, dude. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah. So just to wrap it all up, you guys have been living along with a live stream of RadEO, which is a podcast by the Entrepreneurs Organization in South Africa. If you are an entrepreneur and you would like some info about it, go to eonetwork.org. You can find out everything that's there. And I can say that the network has been one of the most powerful things that have helped me and my business survive this time. So I heartily encourage you to do that. And just a quick shout out to our sponsors, to LabourNet, that I think are helping a lot of the entrepreneurs through this. You guys are amazing. And to Bidvest, you guys have not been as useful, but you probably are going to be amazing at some point in the future when we're allowed outside again. Yeah. So thank you very much for tuning in. And the last call I'd say is that if you think there's somebody who needs to hear this, please share it with them, because I think that's sharing of this information is going to help a lot of people. So thank you very much. And this is me signing off. Peace.
Yeah. Later, guys. Thanks very much. And I think the 3 words to hear for today is get naked fast.